My husband reported me, costing me my job, to benefit his old flame, and then told me not to make a fuss. Vivian is more qualified and capable than you. Even if you got the job, it would be a waste of opportunity. Why are you being so unreasonable? Serena, I'm so disappointed in you. He said this with a look of heartache, waiting for me to apologize as usual. He thought I didn't know that he was the one who reported me. I looked at him for a long time. In a daze, I realized that we had known each other for 10 years, and our daughter was already 6 years old. It felt like I had been apologizing to Adrian all these years. On our anniversary, I happily cooked a big meal to celebrate, but Adrian returned with a blank expression. The food is a bit salty. It's not as good as the restaurant downstairs. When our daughter was lazy with her studies and I scolded her out of frustration, Adrian told me not to act like a shrew. Children have their self-respect too. Besides, what can you teach her with your high school education? When I accompanied my mother-in-law to the hospital, running errands for her, she complained that I wasn't attentive because I spilled a glass of water. Adrian turned around and scolded me. Just because she's not your own mother doesn't mean you don't have to be filial? Serena, how can your character be so awful? Overall, I couldn't seem to recall a single pleasant memory. Then let's get divorced. When I said these words, I felt a sense of relief. It was as if some kind of shackle had broken from my body. I felt inexplicably happy, and in an instant, even the long-standing depression in my chest dissipated a lot. Adrian was only taken aback for a second before regaining his composure, because this wasn't the first time I had mentioned divorce. He quickly looked at me with an understanding gaze, his tone full of helplessness. Vivian and I are just friends. How many times do I have to explain that before you believe me? You weren't good enough, and the school rejected you. You can't blame that on me, can you? Alright, stop making a scene. I'll spend our next anniversary with you properly, okay? I didn't know how he could say those words without blushing. He thought I didn't know that my job was actually sabotaged by my so-called family-oriented and responsible husband, the academically renowned Professor Adrian. I had found the Gerbal letter in the study a long time ago, and I still couldn't believe it after reading it. My education was only high school, but even when I was busy and tired, I never gave up on continuing my studies. Finally, I obtained the degree certificate of my dreams. Although it wasn't as good as Adrian's, or his childhood sweetheart Vivian's, it was just enough to meet the entry requirements for a job at Adrian's school. I was looking forward to joining the institution and making rapid progress under Adrian's guidance, maybe even getting a generous bonus. I didn't expect to be stabbed in the back by my husband of 10 years. The day Adrian left, I even asked him indirectly if the things in the envelope were important. Did he have to hand them in? He was impatient at the time. Why are you asking so many questions? You wouldn't understand even if I told you. I have to go quickly or I'll be late. 3 days later, when the list was announced, my name was nowhere to be found. The last name on the list was Vivian. Even though I was first in the second round of written tests, and the interviewers were very satisfied with my performance, with one interviewer almost hinting at a pleasant working relationship in the future, I was still rejected, because Adrian claimed in the Gerbal letter that I was the wife of Professor Adrian, a leader in the institution. Although my qualifications barely met the requirements, to avoid suspicion, the opportunity should be given to someone who was truly capable. I didn't know more about the inside story at first, but Vivian specifically sent me a message to show off. Someone reported you, and the school originally didn't recognize that claim. The second round of written tests plus the interview, the process is complicated and evident, and the interviewers insisted that you were capable. But Adrian took the initiative to stand up. Adrian righteously stepped forward and personally rejected this job with extremely rare salary and benefits for me. My wife only has a high school education. She was just lucky to be successful in this competition. But working in our institution can't just rely on luck. She keeps saying at home that she probably won't last long before she gets fired. In that case, I think it's better to give the opportunity to a more suitable person, which will save our recruitment costs and avoid our institution from falling into unnecessary public opinion. Just like that, the job I was about to get became Vivian's. But it doesn't matter. I also anonymously reported my husband. I reported him for having an improper work style, and engaging in illicit relationships with women. Now that Jabal letter should already be on the desk of the school leaders. Not only that, I also anonymously posted on the school forum, listing the evidence of Adrian and Vivian's close relationship in a clear and organized manner, with pictures and videos, enough to nail their affair. Let's get divorced. I think divorce might be the most dignified ending for us. I handed him the phone. Why don't you take a look at this before you answer me? The screen displayed the anonymous post on the campus network that reported something, currently trending with thousands of comments underneath. Professor Adrian is so selfless, unwilling to cause trouble for the school. He will definitely resolve it properly, right? I just don't know what I said to annoy Adrian. His face was full of anger. He reached out, snatched my phone without a glance, and smashed it hard on the ground. It's just a job. Why can't you be more understanding? What are you nitpicking about? Divorce isn't something you can just throw around. Serena, have you considered our child? Considered my feelings? Even if you're jealous, can you not make such a scene? You're not satisfied with my mother's parenting, fine. I listened to you and sent my mother away. Now you want to ruin Vivian's job. What happens after she loses her job? What else are you going to do? Serena, can you just calm down? You're really wearing me out. Reflect on yourself. I can't talk to you right now. I'm going to work. Adrian, filled with rage, slammed the door and left. I bent down and picked up the shattered phone. It seemed completely broken. I couldn't turn it on no matter what I did. Indifferently, I went back to the bedroom, changed my clothes, and prepared to go out. First, I planned to buy a new phone at the store, and second, I thought I would take a walk in the mall to relax. As for the post, I didn't remind Adrian again. Anyway, I'm not the one having an affair. I'm not the one who should be worried. Anyway, Adrian is so understanding, it probably doesn't matter if he finds out a little later. But I soon found out that Adrian wasn't as understanding as he claimed. I finished dinner and went to see a movie. It was almost after 9 when I got back, and I slowly walked into the house, enjoying the cool evening breeze and a rare good mood. Since marrying Adrian, I hadn't been able to relax for a long time. But the moment I entered the door, I was greeted by a water glass flying towards me, followed by the sound of glass shattering, accompanied by Adrian's furious voice. Serena, you still know how to come back. Do you know I've been suspended? Good riddance, I thought to myself, while cautiously wiping the water droplets off my forehead, narrowly avoiding being hit on the head. So this is the solution you and Vivian came up with? At this hour, the nanny should have already put our daughter to sleep. Vivian was wearing pajamas, leisurely drying her half-dry hair on the sofa. It wasn't the first time she had stayed over. She was as comfortable as if she were in her own home. Not the least bit awkward. I stared at Adrian for a long time. Only then did I notice the shifty eyes he had in his sudden rage. So he was so angry and flustered because he wanted to preemptively strike, so that I would feel guilty like before. Taking my small mistake of coming home late, he blamed the issue of his suspension on me, making a mountain out of a molehill and taking advantage of the situation. But the real reason for his suspension was glossed over and unmentioned. This was exactly Adrian's usual trick. I suppressed the coldness in my heart and spoke in a soft but firm voice. I don't agree. I don't agree with you and Vivian making me out to be a third party to clear your names. Adrian, when we got married, you didn't have a girlfriend at all. You and Vivian weren't even dating, didn't you say that yourself? And Vivian was still abroad at that time. At least make up a believable story, okay? We are legally married. Do you think you can easily deceive the school leaders and students? Adrian's face instantly turned red, and he hastily defended himself. That's why I want you to go to work with me to explain in person, Serena. You don't have a job, and if I lose my job too, I as an adult can handle it. But who will pay for our daughter's expensive tuition and tutoring classes? You helping me is also helping yourself, helping our child. As long as you agree to clarify, I can solve the other problems. How will you solve them? I was a little surprised. His affair was a definite fact, so could he possibly fake the marriage certificate? We can first get a fake divorce. At this point, Adrian stuttered a little, and Vivian, who was next to him, suddenly smiled and took over the conversation. Just say that you took advantage of me being abroad. interfered in my relationship with Adrian, got pregnant before marriage, and forced Adrian to marry you. My daughter was born after we got married. I coldly interrupted her. Vivian waved her hand, acting generous and not caring about arguing with me. But her words were relentlessly slandering me. Oh, so you lost your first child, and then had your daughter. Adrian has only been putting up with you for the sake of our daughter all these years. You also forced Adrian to use his connections at work to get you a job. Adrian was forced to do it, but in the end, he couldn't bear to take away the results of someone else's years of hard work and kicked you out. You became angry out of humiliation, had a big fight with Adrian, and caused turmoil in the family. Adrian had no choice but to mention divorce, and recently you have been planning to get a divorce certificate. Anyway, you argued with Adrian about divorce during the day, so divorcing is also fulfilling your wish. You're not just being jealous and acting up again, are you? You don't actually want a divorce, do you? That's okay. You love Adrian so much. For Adrian's future, you'll definitely be willing to divorce him, right, Serena? Serena, once this blows over, I'll definitely remarry you. Vivian finished her elaborate fabrication, and Adrian hastily added, unconsciously reverting to his condescending tone, as if remarrying him was a huge reward for me. Not giving up, I asked again. Empty words are meaningless. How can the school administration believe a few words and decide that I'm the one who interfered, and you two are innocent? Vivian looked at me and chuckled, her gaze filled with pity. Don't you know? Since I went abroad, Adrian has never stopped contacting me by email and phone. When my parents went bankrupt and jumped to their deaths, I ran abroad to escape debts. But I'd been living a life of luxury since I was a child. I didn't know how to earn money and couldn't survive. Adrian was the one who constantly cared for me and guided me. Later, when my money ran out, Adrian repeatedly invited me back to China, promising to take care of me for the rest of my life. Also, my plane ticket back to China, and the house I'm living in now were all bought by Adrian for me. So the one who's always had deep feelings is us, and the one Adrian deeply loves is me. As for you, what can you show to prove Adrian ever loved you? Her words were like a depth charge, instantly exploding in my mind. Adrian deceived me so cruelly. What has my 10 years been worth? I don't want to agree, but it seems I have no way out. Oh, you came back late, Adrian, and I didn't have time to discuss it with you, but we've already posted a reply on the school's website to explain everything clearly. At that time, you only need to admit that the response is true in front of the school's investigation team, and then get divorced from Adrian. Vivian explained with a light smile, each word like a knife stabbing into my heart. They said they couldn't wait to discuss it with me, but when I opened the post, I found that they had already made a response at noon. I numbly scrolled down, watching with my own eyes how my husband, together with the real other woman, openly smeared me, and then turned around and falsely accused me of interfering in their relationship. For 10 whole years, Adrian and Vivian hadn't broken contact. Thousands of emails and countless call records all indicated the two people's past ambiguity and passion. In addition, even my miscarriage diagnosis record was posted. The personal information on the form was not blurred in the slightest, and it was displayed so brazenly in front of everyone. Adrian and I have already had someone pave the way for your abortion. So even if the school personally goes to that hospital, they won't be able to find anything wrong, so you can rest assured. Vivian kindly reminded me, but the unstated meaning of these words made me feel cold and shudder. Everyone said that marrying Adrian was a great blessing. As soon as he got married, he handed over his salary card and the entire household to me. He worked hard outside, and I was in charge of everything inside and outside the home. But no one knows. Adrian only gave me his meager fixed salary. The real big income was actually all kinds of research and development patents under his name, which made money every day. But I had to use the meager income he gave to support the family. Not only that, my daughter's expensive tuition and my mother-in-law's sky-high nutrition and medical expenses always required me to humbly beg Adrian for them. Adrian was completely a hands-off shopkeeper at home, but he still pointed fingers at my obligations everywhere with an arrogant attitude. But even if I swallowed my anger and endured it, Adrian was still not satisfied. While he was hitting me so hard and making me look dejected in the marriage, he turned around and raised Vivian like a pampered young lady. He even lied to me, saying that Vivian was originally a golden and noble young lady, and that her own family fortune supported her extravagance. He reluctantly used the money he earned to support his own mother and daughter. But he turned around and spent money like water to support the other woman who provoked me everywhere. Now that the incident has come to light, he doesn't hesitate to squeeze out my last value, and uses the connections and money that I have never enjoyed to weave an airtight crime for me, to get himself and her out of trouble. How can people be so shameless? Fortunately, I had long since given up any hope for Adrian. The next day, in front of the school's investigation team, I admitted without hesitation that the post was true, but changing the subject, I handed over a divorce agreement. I've seen through it over the years. The famous Professor Adrian is nothing more than that. Since he's willing to leave with nothing to pursue true love, of course I have to fulfill him. Professor Adrian, didn't you say you wanted to sign in front of the school leaders to show your determination? Now sign it. A few words changed everyone's expression. Vivian directly broke down after only one glance at the agreement, and couldn't help but scold me for being greedy. Serena, are you crazy? You actually want all of Adrian's patents. Do you know how much they're worth? How dare you ask? I'm telling you, no way. You won't get a penny. The divorce agreement was thrown hard at my face by her, and then scattered all over the ground. I felt the burning pain on my cheek, smiled slightly, and then slapped Vivian hard in return. What are you doing? Serena, have you gone mad? Adrian unhesitatingly protected Vivian in his arms, pushing me hard to the side in disbelief. Unfortunately, my tailbone hit the corner of the table, and I felt a wave of pain that made my vision go black for a moment. But Adrian didn't even glance at me. Even my own daughter, Nina, was only concerned about Vivian, who was shedding tears of grievance. When she finally looked at me, she only glared at me angrily and shouted as she always did. Mommy bad. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I hate you. It didn't matter if she hated me. She would never like me no matter what I did. After being taken care of by my mother-in-law for more than half a year, my little darling, who used to shed tears at the sight of a small cut on my finger, had secretly changed. She kept mentioning Auntie Vivian this and Auntie Vivian that. Her own mother who had breastfed her and personally cared for her every need, was constantly being hated by her. I had even risked a cold war with Adrian to get rid of my mother-in-law, but my daughter's character could no longer be restored to what it was before. I was also tired. I only took most of Adrian's patents, not all of them, which was the last bit of consideration I had for my daughter. I had no intention of continuing to watch their heartwarming family drama and spoke softly. After 10 years of knowing each other and 8 years of marriage, I haven't spent a single penny of the money Adrian made from his patents, so of course I don't know exactly how much they are worth. But Miss Vivian is different. The clothes you wear, the things you use, and even the house you live in are all paid for by Adrian. I wonder if that counts as marital property. What's real and what's fake? Maybe it can be twisted with just a few words, but the law doesn't lie. If I don't get a satisfactory answer today, I can also go to court for a judgment. Adrian suddenly looked up at me. Before he could speak, I coldly advised him. Adrian, sign it. Since my character is so inferior, and I'm being kicked out of the house by you without taking a single penny, who would believe that? I must be aiming for something, right? Adrian didn't lose out on the 8 years of marriage where I worked like a slave. Everyone present was shrewd and could discern some clues. But Adrian was the school's cash cow at the moment, and no one was willing to investigate further. As long as the clarified truth could silence public opinion, that was enough. As for the custody of my daughter, before I could even open my mouth, after just mentioning it, my daughter screamed and retreated in terror. I don't want to go with Mommy. Mommy will hit me, Mommy will pinch me. Mommy doesn't let me eat. Daddy, save me. Daddy, I want to stay with you and Auntie Vivian. I want Auntie Vivian to be my mommy. Mommy, don't hit me. Please, Mommy, don't hit me, I'll be good. Wah. Everyone's expression changed. Only Vivian's eyes flashed with a hint of triumph. I knew it. Since my little darling had been brought here, she would definitely stab me in the back. My daughter was 6 years old, and I had never hit her. I had only scolded her a few times when she was distracted during her studies, and refused to listen despite repeated attempts to teach her. But such heartbreaking things had happened more than once. Even if it wasn't the first time, my heart still ached as if it were being twisted by a knife. I didn't need to look to know that my face must be very ugly. I couldn't get custody of my daughter. Actually, I didn't want it either. I swallowed all my emotions, forced Adrian to sign the divorce agreement, and urged him to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the certificate. As we left the school together, I heard Vivian and Adrian arguing softly behind us. Adrian used a gentle tone that I had never heard before to patiently coax Vivian, and when he mentioned me, his tone involuntarily became disdainful and dismissive. "Don't worry, our daughter is with us, she can't bear to leave. She doesn't have any other children, sooner or later, won't she?" So that's what he thought. But not all mothers love their children. And not all children naturally yearn for their mothers. Just like my mom right now. In front of all the students and faculty who had just finished class in Vivian's group, she slapped me without saying a word. After that, she hysterically tore at me and scolded me. "Slut. I'll let you be a mistress. I'll let you ruin other people's relationships." "Serena, I don't have a daughter like you." I wasn't very sad when my mother grabbed and tore at me, because I had long been completely disappointed in her. With just a light wave, my mother's perpetually weak body was pushed to the ground. She fell heavily, her eyes red, gasping for air. I didn't help her up, and no one else there did either. Adrian beside me looked impatient, his face screaming embarrassment. Vivian wore a worried expression, but her eyes were full of gleeful anticipation. My daughter buried her head directly in Adrian's neck, not greeting anyone, not even asking if she was okay, let alone showing any sympathy. I looked down at my mother, smoothing the hair she had pulled out of place. I softly questioned her in front of everyone. "Mom, you can't just take it out on me because Dad had an affair. I know you've always regretted divorcing him, and you regret not beating up the other woman to vent your anger, but you can't publicly accuse your own daughter of being an adulteress. You know I hate mistresses more than anything, and I would never interfere in someone else's relationship in this life. Dad has already married Auntie Judy. Are you going to beat and scold me for the rest of your life to vent your anger? Is that why you fought for my custody, but didn't give me a single penny, leaving me to fend for myself? Then I feel a little sorry for Dad. Now I even suspect what Dad said back then, that you ruined his relationship with Auntie Judy to take her place. Is that true? Serena, how dare you? You actually dare. You..." My mother didn't finish a sentence before she rolled her eyes and fainted from anger. This time, Vivian was the first to rush over and help my mother up. She held my mother, looking at me with disbelief and a condemning tone. "Serena, how can you be so cold-blooded? This is your own mother. Do you have any humanity in you to treat her like this?" I smiled slightly. "Miss Vivian, you're really just talking because you're not the one suffering. If I hadn't provided you with the material about my mother, you wouldn't have been able to so smoothly apply it to me to clear up the scandal between you and Adrian, would you? Why are you denying it now? Then do Adrian and I even need to get divorced? If we don't, Am I going home?" Vivian's face turned an iron blue with anger, and she trembled, looking at the teachers and students watching the scene around them. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Apparently, she knows that the school leaders are easy to talk to, but this group of onlookers won't be so easily dismissed. I was about to reply again when Adrian interrupted me with a gloomy face. "Okay, stop arguing. Let's send Mom to the hospital first." At the hospital, my mother quickly woke up. She was fine, but she kept shouting that she didn't want to see me, which suited me just fine, because I didn't want to see her either. I saw on the phone map that the hospital wasn't far from the Civil Affairs Bureau, so I asked Adrian to take some time to get the certificate, so we wouldn't have to make another appointment. Adrian frowned, saying that there was no need to rush. "But don't you still need the slip to go back to work? Isn't work a priority?" I said, walking out. Adrian made an appointment with the school leaders, used the divorce receipt to reinstate my job, and a month later would issue a formal statement within the school with the divorce certificate. Finally getting divorced. This time, Vivian was unusually quiet and even thoughtfully offered to help me take care of my mother. It was strange. My mother didn't like me, but she was kind to Vivian. Coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Adrian advised me in a heavy voice that I might as well go out and relax recently, and come back in a month to get the certificate, by which time everything would surely be calm. I looked down at the comments under that post. The online commenters were working hard, and any weak doubts raised in my defense were quickly suppressed. Instead, more and more evidence was being presented to prove that I was of bad character and low morals. The curses surged towards me like a tide, seeming to intensify. It seemed that Adrian knew all about this, and it was very likely that he had personally given the order. I looked at the gloomy sky and sighed softly. Okay. Then I picked up a suitcase and went straight to the airport. After that, we only met once more when I went to pick up the divorce certificate. The next time we meet was 11 years later. Among the bustling crowd at the airport, I saw at a glance, behind Vivian who was holding a child, her 17-year-old daughter with a gloomy face. Nina, probably a family of 5 traveling together. Her daughter was carrying several bags, pulling a long face and following silently beside Vivian. After so many years, Vivian's once bright and radiant face had taken on a trace of sharpness. Her slender figure was still well maintained, yet somehow her whole aura was completely different from before. The dazzling beauty she once was, now looking at her, the face was still the same face, but she seemed no different from many ordinary housewives. Across from her, my former mother-in-law, who had served as a discipline director for decades, was wearing a stern expression, educating her about something incessantly, making Vivian frown again and again, unable to stop herself from talking back. When Adrian appeared pushing the luggage, the two finally stopped talking. Only then did I realize that Adrian had changed the most, barely in his early 40s, yet more than half his hair had turned white. I stood there watching for a moment, then turned and left. No need to say hello, no need to show my presence. After all these years, except for paying my daughter's child support on time, I had never had any contact with them. Even when my mother passed away unexpectedly 2 years ago, I didn't come back to handle things myself. As planned, I met with a few art collector friends for a chat, and afterward I still had 2 days to spare. I went to visit Mr. Peterson, who had helped me back then, bringing gifts. After leaving his house, I took a walk near the school gate. Unexpectedly, I ran into Adrian's family again. This time, my former mother-in-law wasn't around. I didn't notice them until my daughter called out to me through tears. At that moment, I was holding a serving of stinky tofu, a bag of skewers, a plate of stir-fried cold noodles, a jianbing, and half a grilled sausage in my mouth. Our eyes met. I gave an awkward smile and kept chewing. I'm here on a business trip. I'm leaving tomorrow. You guys continue your walk. My car is almost here. I'll get going first. I ignored the tears rolling down my daughter's aggrieved little face, ignored the complicated and nostalgic look in Adrian's eyes, and ignored the wary, guarded expression on Vivian's face. I turned around and left this troublesome place as quickly as possible, but in the end I didn't escape. Nina hugged me tightly from behind, crying loudly, "Mom, I missed you so much. Where did you go? Did you not want me anymore? Why do you never come back to see me?" Nina wasn't doing well. At the hotel where I stayed, she tearfully accused Vivian of treating her badly, Adrian of not caring about the family, and my former mother-in-law of caring only about her younger brother now. No one at home cared about her. After our divorce, Adrian immediately registered his marriage with Vivian. But later, the conflicts between them grew, about work, family values, more and more incompatible, more and more obvious. The job Vivian obtained through Adrian's backdoor tutoring scheme, after reporting his own wife to get her position. She only managed to keep it for half a year before getting fired for repeated mistakes. Back at home, 2 women couldn't live under the same roof. The mother-in-law who once stood firmly on her side now competed with her on everything. Vivian liked to spend money when she was in a bad mood, and because Adrian had left the marriage with nothing back then, his income was far less than before, so she often got scolded for not knowing how to run a household. All in all, everything went wrong, but divorce was already too late. Vivian refused to let go of her last life-saving straw, and because of the scandal back then, Adrian had no choice but to continue maintaining this marriage with Vivian. Later, they had a child, which made separation even more impossible. In this shattered marriage, Nina, once the little princess of the family, eventually became the lowest in the household hierarchy. Vivian ordered her around, belittled her, and no one in the family spoke up for her. She didn't dare resist, so she could only endure it. "Mom, I want to live with you. Can you go ask Dad to give back my custody?" Tears streamed down Nina's face, her body trembling with sobs. No. It was precisely because I didn't want her custody back then that I hadn't completely destroyed Adrian and Vivian. I've always been someone who repays kindness and resentment clearly. The most unbearable thing is being betrayed by those closest to me. The closest people I have in this world are my mother and my daughter, but they have both betrayed me, so I will never forgive them. All I have left for them is the duty to raise and support them. But I won't deliberately confess at this important moment when my daughter is approaching the college entrance exam, destroying her belief. So I tactfully advised her, "Nina, Mom knows you're not doing well and feels sad. But you're in your senior year, and the college entrance exam is just after the new year. I'm afraid suddenly changing schools will affect your grades. After all, the college entrance exam is a major event in your life. How about Mom helps you rent an apartment near the school and hires an auntie to cook for you? After you finish the exam, Mom will bring you home, okay?" Nina shed tears of gratitude. She readily agreed. After Nina left, I had a very old dream. I dreamed that I was 16 again, the year my parents finally divorced. This couple had been arguing ever since I could remember. When I was 10 years old, my father finally confirmed my mother's suspicions and had an affair. He moved out without looking back to live with that woman surnamed Jo, who had a child. Disregarding his marriage and his family, it wasn't until I was 16 that my mother finally faced reality and agreed to separate and divorce. For so many years, my mother held on to her memories of their loving past, finally exhausting her passion on my father. 2 months before the divorce, my mother, who had never worked in her life, found a job out of the blue. She wanted to be a powerful woman. She wanted to fight for my custody, but she didn't know. In fact, my father never wanted my custody. "Xiaoxua, Dad is sorry. Dad will transfer the alimony to your card on time, but Dad can't take you. If you follow Dad, your mother won't let me go. She will pester me for the rest of my life. Dad is old and just wants to live a stable life. I'm very sorry this life. I gave birth to you but couldn't raise you properly. My father wanted to leave the marital home for me, but my mother didn't want it. She didn't want a penny, nor did she want the house. Even if my father gave it to me, she wouldn't allow it. She wanted to leave with nothing, to be a completely independent woman, and never have anything to do with my father's money again." My mother said to my father with a cold and arrogant face, "My job is very good, the salary is very high. I can afford to raise my daughter. Take your stinking money away. From now on, the two of us have nothing to do with each other. I wish you and that Jo woman a long and happy life together." She seemed to have completely let go, but it only lasted a total of 3 months. As soon as they got the divorce certificate, my father remarried. Their mutual friends sent a photo of my father at the wedding. The family of 3 was all smiles, the atmosphere was warm and calm. My mother looked at that photo, and as she looked, she smiled, laughing with tears streaming down her face. After that, she never went out to work again. Her colleagues came to her house and found a crazy woman drunk out of her mind. The company didn't make any excuses and directly gave her 2N+1 compensation and fired my mother, who had just become a full-time employee. They were just afraid of getting into trouble. But money will run out sooner or later if you don't earn it. So at the age of 16, I began a life of scavenging garbage, working part-time and going to school. But it still wasn't enough. On the eve of the college entrance exam, my mother fell ill and needed a lot of money. Scavenging garbage wasn't enough, and working part-time wasn't enough either. No matter what, it wasn't enough. At 18, nearly 2 years later, I made my first phone call to my father. I asked him if my mother was dying, and whether the house he wanted to give me back then was still available. My father stammered for a long time, avoiding the topic. I knew he was unwilling. "Serena, Dad also has a family. Your Auntie Judy just gave me a child. The baby's formula is costing money like water. You're also an adult, so I originally didn't have to give you living expenses anymore, but your Auntie Judy has been persuading me." After hanging up the phone, I returned to school. The books from all 3 years of high school, when added together, sold for 28.6 yuan. The boss saw that I looked unwell and gave me 29. My homeroom teacher, Mr. Peterson, ran to the hospital and earnestly persuaded me. Your grades are good enough to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Serena, don't give up. No matter how hard it is, grit your teeth and get through this 1 month. And the school will definitely have bonuses, and the county will too. Think about it carefully. If it really doesn't work out, tell me how much you need. I can help you cover it first. Don't give up such a bright future. I smiled faintly and refused him. Mr. Peterson, thank you for your kindness. But my mom is in the ICU. Money is flowing like water, and who knows when it will end. In the end, we might not even be able to save her. I can't drag you down. I've thought clearly about the college entrance exam. I can't wait any longer. I'm too anxious to make money. I'm very smart. I believe I can have a bright future even if I don't go to college. Right now, I want to save my mom's life first. Mr. Peterson, do you believe me? Even if I don't take the college entrance exam, I'll definitely be successful in the future. After seeing Mr. Peterson off, I went to the rooftop alone to catch the breeze. The wind was too strong, making my eyes ache. A dozen minutes later, my old phone suddenly rang. It was the nurse urging me. Where did the family member go? We couldn't find you anywhere. Your mother woke up. I met Adrian in a very popular park, where I was setting up a stall to draw dinosaurs on children's faces. The stall was filled with my artwork from my spare time, 21 pieces. I could occasionally sell a few. Adrian's eyes lit up as soon as he approached. His words, "This painting is so spiritual," caught my attention. That day, at 200 yuan per piece, Adrian bought all 10 paintings I had brought out to the stall. The second time, he bought 10 more. The third time, I couldn't help but remind Adrian, these paintings only cost about 20 yuan to make. You've already bought a lot. Adrian's eyes sparkled. But these paintings are really attractive to me. I will always remember that afternoon. But for Adrian, it seemed like just a casual compliment to a passerby on an ordinary afternoon. But that casual compliment gave me a 3-year filter on Adrian in my marriage. Until the child was born, time after time, I had disagreements with my mother-in-law about raising the child. Even when I was right, Adrian would always pressure me to apologize. I finally realized that Adrian was just an ordinary man. But I never thought about divorce. My parents' experience made me subconsciously think that marriage was just like that. No matter the process, the result was the same. I just wanted to raise my child well. I didn't want my baby to go through the pain I had experienced. But I endured it for 6 years. Endured until Vivian returned to China. Endured the feeling of suffocation in my chest every time I stepped into the house for those 2 years. When I saw Adrian's letter of accusation, I couldn't take it anymore. When I was 18, I took out loans everywhere to pull my mother's life back from the ICU. After that, I slept only 5 hours a day, set up stalls, opened online stores, and learned all kinds of skills. I paid off the huge debt when I was 20. I survived the most difficult days. What was I afraid of? I was actually so excellent. I could definitely live a better life on my own. And these 11 years proved that my choice was indeed correct. I really lived the life I wanted. Nina finished the college entrance exam and had already passed her 18th birthday. When the university admission letter came, she told me the good news as soon as possible. As promised, I gave her a belated 18th birthday gift, and then, under her happy and excited gaze, I gently refused her decision to live with me. Nina, you were already old enough to remember when I divorced your father, right? Do you remember how I left with a bad reputation? Do you remember what you did to me, your own mother? In the face of her instantly frozen smile and pale face, I continued to reveal the cruel truth to her. Over the years, I have never forgiven your father's deception and slander. The harm he did to me was real and indelible. In the first 2 years after the divorce, I didn't even dare to communicate too much with anyone because I couldn't trust them. I was afraid that they would stab me in the back like your father did. Similarly, I have not forgiven you either. Although you are my own daughter, I spent the most effort of my life on you. At that time, I regarded you as the closest and most beloved person in my life, But you also betrayed me. I was young at the time. It was all Vivian who taught me. Nina's tears welled up in her eyes, and she explained incoherently in excitement. I looked at her gently, without the slightest wavering in my heart. Nina, I was a child too. My parents were always arguing when I was growing up and didn't have time for me. I was always skipping meals. My life was much harder than yours. When I was your age, I was even hospitalized for gastritis and malnutrition. But back then I never hated them. I never once maliciously slandered my own caring mother like you did. I'm not arguing with you because I really can't bring myself to retaliate against my own daughter. But I can never forgive you in this lifetime, and I don't want to see you again for the rest of my life. The only reason I endured until after your college entrance exam was my last bit of softness for you. And it won't happen again. You're an adult now. This card has enough money for your tuition and living expenses for 4 years of college. After that, let's not contact each other anymore. After our reunion, I never expected her to apologize to me or ask how I've been these past years. And she really didn't mention or ask me anything. I don't expect her to support me either. Disappearing from my life is the greatest repayment she can give me. After saying that, I left without looking back, politely closing the apartment door, ignoring the girl inside who was crying with tears streaming down her face and slowly sliding to the ground. But as soon as I looked up, I saw the man leaning against the wall next to me slowly turn around. Adrian, with red eyes, looked at me and choked out that sentence. The apology I had waited 11 years for. I'm sorry. For the past year, while I've been focusing on getting Nina to study, I haven't seen Adrian even once. The few times we communicated, it was through my daughter's phone. As long as I tried hard to avoid him, Adrian couldn't find an opportunity to say that long-awaited, yet meaningless, attempt at reconciliation. I thought about remarrying you, but I can't find you anymore. After many years, he finally shed his condescending attitude and learned to talk to me on equal terms. But his words are still full of lies. He married Vivian immediately after divorcing me. He regretted it after the marriage, but now he wants to deceive me with a montage-like lie. It seems he's really not doing well. Without me running the household, Adrian has to work and also spend energy mediating pushy problems, plus our daughter's studies and his mother's frequent hospital visits. Later he had another son with Vivian. 11 years have passed, and he doesn't have many new research achievements to his name. The family's living expenses all depend on living off their savings. According to his and Vivian's plans, with Adrian's abilities, they should have been living a more luxurious life than before his divorce from me. But the reality is that Adrian seems to have run out of talent. No wonder Adrian's hair is half white. No wonder Vivian has a miserable look on her face. So, it's retribution. Great. Serena, is there really no chance for us anymore? We used to be so compatible. After you left, I realized that being with Vivian was a complete mistake. She's always causing trouble, and I don't have time to do research. I'm always cleaning up her messes. I didn't expect. The first thing Adrian did when he asked to meet me was to pour out his grievances. I lowered my head and sipped my coffee. Listening to the once bright and cheerful Professor Adrian, now like a complaining wife, babbling endlessly. He's changed a lot. He used to be always neatly dressed and obsessed with cleanliness, but now he doesn't even notice the milk stains on his sleeves. Maybe Vivian really disappointed him. Even though they spent a lot of money on hiring a nanny and a housekeeper, and they found a good caregiver for his mother in the hospital, and the family didn't care much about their daughter's studies, there were still many things to deal with. Vivian couldn't handle many small things alone, and always needed Adrian to step in. Adrian always thought that what I did was just the cheapest, completely replaceable repetitive work that anyone could do and wasn't challenging. He thought that without me, finding a few good housekeepers could solve any problem? But how to choose a good housekeeper? Where to find a good nanny? Who would examine a good tutor? There were countless intricacies involved. After being a hands-off boss for 10 years, Adrian finally understood my hard work, but it was too late. Now he actually wants to come back. Serena, I don't care that you reported me and Vivian. Can you forgive me once too? If I pursue you again. So he already knows that I reported them. But wasn't what I reported true? If it weren't true, why didn't he call the police and instead faked a divorce with me? According to him, it's always my fault. He's still the same as always, disgusting. I opened the family album on my phone, held it in front of Adrian, and then flashed the very obvious diamond ring on my hand. But I'm already married. I have a husband and children. My darling daughter is already in kindergarten. I'm living a happy and fulfilling life, so why should I forgive you? Adrian, I'm not like you. I can't do something as rotten as cheating while married. And I threw the materials I had prepared in my bag in front of Adrian. I did report you, but you did cheat. Our divorce, wasn't it the plan you and Vivian came up with to throw the dirt on me? And didn't you also report me and get me fired from the job I worked so hard to get, only to give it to Vivian? Speaking of which, you even tricked me into marriage. You were obviously very close to Vivian, but you tricked me into managing the household for you for 10 years. I didn't want to make things ugly back then because of our daughter, but now our daughter is an adult. Adrian, just resign yourself. I don't want things to get too ugly. The pile of materials was concrete evidence of Adrian and Vivian's affair. Back then, I just wanted to force Adrian to divorce me. I didn't want to completely destroy him, so I didn't expose too much. I kept all the more explosive evidence, plus the audio from that night when they planned to throw dirt on me. Perfectly preserved. All for the sake of getting revenge after our daughter became an adult. Adrian, who has barely produced anything in recent years, is like a burden to the school. I don't know if they're willing to protect the now disgraced Professor Adrian. Perhaps the school won't even need to choose. Adrian has already made his choice. He grabbed those explicit photos, his lips trembling, looking at me with fear in his eyes. Just like me that night. Helplessly letting him and Vivian throw all the dirt on me. I think Professor Adrian wouldn't be willing to leave as disgraced as I was back then, bearing all the accusations. Good. 12 years later, my revenge is finally complete.